Romania sits at the meeting point of southeastern and central Europe, stretching along the lower Danube and reaching the northwestern shores of the Black Sea. From space, its borders almost resemble a goldfish swimming toward the east. But Romania's true uniqueness isn't its shape. It's the fact that it's a Latin-speaking nation surrounded almost entirely by countries whose languages belong to the Slavic world. For nearly 2,000 years, the Romanian language has carried echoes of ancient Rome through invasions, empires, and countless political changes. Yet beneath that quiet identity lies a country filled with remarkable contrasts. In Giamena, the bell tower of an old church still rises above shimmering water painted in shades of blue, yellow, and red. From a distance it looks breathtaking. Up close the truth is heartbreaking. That colorful lake is actually a massive reservoir of toxic waste left behind by copper mining. An entire village once stood there. Homes, roads, churches, generations of memories. Today most of it rests beneath the surface, leaving behind one of Romania's most haunting reminders of industrial history. For many people outside Europe, Romania immediately brings one image to mind: Dracula, vampires, dark castles hidden among misty mountains. But beyond those familiar legends lies something even more extraordinary. The Carpathian Mountains shelter one of Europe's last great wildernesses. Ancient forests still cover the landscape, providing refuge for wildlife that has disappeared from much of the continent. Here, people continue adapting to the natural rhythm of the mountains instead of trying to overpower them. Then there's the city of Sibiu. Its historic rooftops are famous for something unusual. The windows resemble human eyes. Walking through the old streets, it almost feels as though the buildings themselves are quietly watching everyone who passes beneath them. In Romania, history isn't locked inside museums. It lives in the forests, the villages, the mountains, and in the streets themselves. ## the mountains that shaped a nation. The Carpathian Mountains curve across Romania like a giant bow, wrapping around the country's heart. They're far more than a dramatic landscape. For centuries they've shaped Romania's climate, culture, and history. The mountain range naturally separates the country into three historic regions: Wallachia in the south, Moldavia in the east, and Transylvania beyond the mountain arc. Each region developed its own traditions and way of life. Yet all remained connected through mountain passes once traveled by merchants, shepherds, and armies for generations. The Carpathians also protect something incredibly rare: one of Europe's last truly wild ecosystems. Today Romania is home to roughly 6,000 brown bears, representing nearly half of the European Union's brown bear population outside Russia. Alongside them live around 2,500 wolves and nearly 1,500 lynx, creating an ecosystem that much of Europe remembers only through history books. Across the continent, expanding cities and human settlement gradually pushed large predators away. Romania became one of the few places where they never completely disappeared. Their survival depends largely on another remarkable fact. Nearly 29% of Romania remains covered by forest. Even more impressive, around 65% of the European Union's remaining primeval forests are found here. Some of these ancient trees have stood for more than 5 centuries. Long before modern nations existed. Long before borders looked the way they do today. Sunlight filters gently through towering branches, creating landscapes that have changed surprisingly little across hundreds of years. Because of this extraordinary biodiversity, scientists often describe the Carpathians as one of Europe's greatest natural laboratories. Yet the mountains aren't defined only by forests and wildlife. For generations, shepherds have followed seasonal migration routes across these slopes. Every summer, flocks climb toward higher alpine pastures where cooler temperatures and fresh grass await. As the grazing season begins, traditional mountain fairs return once again. Known locally as Nedii, these gatherings bring communities together to trade livestock, exchange knowledge, celebrate local crafts, and keep centuries-old folk music alive. Life in these mountains has never been about conquering nature. Instead, it's been about learning to live alongside it. Perhaps that's why this landscape still feels wonderfully untamed, even as much of Europe continues changing around it. ## where Rome never truly disappeared. The Danube has carried more than water through this region. For nearly 2,000 years, it has carried history itself. In 106 AD, Roman Emperor Trajan defeated the ancient kingdom of Dacia after a series of brutal military campaigns. That victory transformed the region forever. Over time, Roman settlers mixed with the local Dacian population. Languages blended. Cultures merged. traditions evolved. The result was something remarkably unusual. A nation with unmistakably Latin roots surrounded almost entirely by Slavic-speaking neighbors. Even today, modern Romanian still carries countless traces of its Roman ancestry. Standing high above the Danube is one of Romania's most extraordinary monuments. A massive stone face carved directly into the cliffs. It depicts King Decebalus, the last ruler of ancient Dacia. At 55 meters tall, it remains the largest rock sculpture in Europe. More than honoring a historical king, the monument symbolizes a people determined to preserve their identity despite centuries of invasion and political upheaval. Many centuries later, another Romanian ruler would become even more famous across the world. Not because of history, but because of legend. His name was Vlad III, better known today as Vlad the Impaler. Unlike the fictional vampire created in novels and films, Vlad III ruled Wallachia during the 15th century, when the expanding Ottoman Empire constantly threatened Eastern Europe. His methods were ruthless. Harsh punishments and psychological warfare became powerful tools for defending his territory. To some, he was a fearless protector. To others, a symbol of unimaginable cruelty. Over time, history slowly merged with folklore. Then, in the late 19th century, Bram Stoker published Dracula. From that moment onward, much of the world began associating Vlad III with the immortal vampire. One of Romania's most famous myths was born. Because of that story, Bran Castle attracts millions of visitors every year. It's widely promoted as Dracula's castle. The reality is rather different. The fortress was originally built by Saxon settlers to guard an important mountain trade route through the Carpathians. Historical evidence connecting Vlad III to Bran Castle is extremely limited. If any fortress truly reflects his life, it's Poenari Fortress. Perched high above a steep mountain slope, reaching it requires climbing around 180 stone steps through dense forest. According to historical accounts, Vlad forced captured prisoners to strengthen and rebuild the fortress as punishment. From its commanding position, he could watch over the valleys and strategic roads leading into Wallachia. Unlike the legends surrounding Dracula, Poenari tells the story of a real ruler. A man shaped by war, politics, and survival. Not fiction, where time still moves slowly. Leaving the Danube behind, the journey leads north into Maramureș, a region where it feels as though time has chosen a slower pace. The first thing you notice isn't how remote it is. It's how little modern life seems to have disturbed it. Traditional wooden homes line quiet roads, each one surrounded by beautifully carved gates crafted using techniques passed down through generations. Rising above the villages are towering wooden churches, their slender spires stretching toward the sky. Many were built almost entirely without iron nails. Instead, skilled craftsmen relied on carefully fitted wooden joints that have held these structures together for centuries despite heavy snow, strong winds, and the passage of time. These churches are far more than places of worship. They stand as lasting symbols of communities that have lived alongside the Carpathian Mountains for generations. Every beam, every carving, every weathered plank preserves another chapter of local history. Yet Maramureș is home to another tradition unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. In the village of Sapanta lies one of the world's most unusual cemeteries. Known as the Mary Cemetery, it transforms the idea of mourning into something unexpectedly colorful. Instead of dark stone monuments, bright blue wooden crosses fill the hillside. Each cross is decorated with painted scenes showing the person's occupation, personality, or memorable moments from their life. Beneath the artwork are short poems. Some are humorous, some are playful. Others gently poke fun at the very people buried beneath them. Here, death isn't treated only with sorrow. It's accepted as another step in life's journey. Remembered with honesty, with gratitude, and sometimes even with a smile. That unique perspective gives the cemetery an atmosphere unlike any other, reminding visitors that every life deserves to be celebrated as much as mourned. The real heart of Transylvania. Leaving Maramureș behind, the road enters one of Romania's most famous regions. Transylvania. For many people, the name immediately brings to mind vampires, castles, and Gothic legends. The reality is far richer. Transylvania's greatest treasure isn't mythology. It's diversity. For centuries, Romanians, Hungarians, Saxon Germans, and Roma communities have shared this landscape. Each group contributed its own language, its own traditions, its own architecture, and together they created one of Europe's most fascinating cultural mosaics. Across rolling hills, medieval Saxon villages still stand remarkably well preserved. Massive fortified churches rise at their centers, surrounded by thick defensive walls that once protected entire communities from invasion. Today those villages remain living reminders that different cultures didn't simply pass through this region. They learned to live alongside one another. That blend of traditions also lives on around the dinner table. One of Romania's best-known dishes is sarmale. Tender cabbage rolls slowly cooked around a rich filling of seasoned meat. Beside them is mamaliga, a comforting cornmeal dish that has accompanied rural families for generations. These meals continue to appear at weddings, holiday celebrations, and Sunday family gatherings throughout the country. No traditional feast feels complete without tuica, a strong plum brandy deeply woven into Romanian culture. Romania ranks among the world's leading producers of plums, making the fruit an important part of both agriculture and tradition. Offering a glass of tuica is often one of the first gestures of hospitality. Soon after come stories, laughter, music, and conversations that can continue late into the evening. Traditional dances and folk songs still preserve memories passed from one generation to the next, allowing the past and present to exist side by side. A road built for war. Loved for beauty ***. Cutting directly through the Carpathian Mountains is one of Europe's most spectacular roads. The Transfăgărășan Highway twists through towering peaks like a ribbon draped across the landscape. Today it's considered one of the world's greatest driving routes. Every corner reveals another breathtaking panorama. Cloud-covered ridges, deep valleys, crystal-clear alpine lakes. Yet surprisingly, beauty was never the reason it was built. Following political tensions in Czechoslovakia during 1968, Romania's government ordered the construction of a strategic military road capable of moving troops quickly through the mountains if conflict ever erupted. Building it demanded enormous effort. Workers blasted directly through solid granite. Steep cliffs had to be carved away. Dozens of bridges and tunnels connected sections once thought impossible to reach. More than 500 tons of explosives were used during construction. When the project was finally completed, it stood not only as a transportation route but also as one of Romania's greatest engineering achievements. Its original military purpose gradually disappeared. Nature reclaimed the surrounding mountains. Today, every summer, thousands of visitors slowly drive its famous hairpin bends. At the summit, Bălea Lake mirrors the blue mountain sky while clouds drift silently across the peaks. A road once designed for war has become a destination celebrating peace, freedom, and natural beauty. The underground world of salt. Far below Romania's surface lies another place unlike anywhere else. Turda Salt Mine. Nearly 120 meters underground, the mine opens into enormous chambers carved entirely from salt. Soft lighting reflects across shimmering walls that have quietly formed over centuries. What began as an ancient mining site has been transformed into one of the country's most remarkable visitor attractions. Deep below ground you'll find something few people expect. A giant Ferris wheel. Sports courts. A boating lake. Wide underground halls that feel almost futuristic. Yet the mine's greatest attraction isn't what people built inside it. It's the air itself. The underground environment remains remarkably stable throughout the year. Temperature, humidity, air quality. Everything changes very little. Scientists have found that the air contains extremely low levels of dust and airborne particles. Because of these conditions, many visitors come not only for sightseeing but also because the mine has long been associated with supporting people living with certain respiratory conditions. Stepping into Turda feels less like entering a mine, and more like discovering an entirely different world hidden beneath Romania. Where the Danube meets the sea. Eventually, the mighty Danube reaches the end of its long journey. Instead of flowing directly into the Black Sea, it spreads into an extraordinary maze of rivers, reed beds, lakes, and islands. This is the Danube Delta, the second largest river delta in Europe, and one of its best preserved wetland ecosystems. More than 300 species of birds either live here permanently or stop during migrations stretching across continents. Each season transforms the landscape. Pelicans soar overhead. Herons stalk the shallow water. Cormorants gather across quiet channels. Beneath the surface, dozens of fish species help sustain both the ecosystem and the communities that have depended on these waters for generations. Life here still follows the rhythm of nature. People travel by boat instead of roads. They adapt to changing water levels rather than trying to control them. The Danube Delta stands as powerful proof that humans and nature can still thrive together when balance comes before domination. A capital of contrast. The final stop brings you to Bucharest, a city where different chapters of history stand side by side. Wide boulevards lined with elegant buildings earned Romania's capital the nickname Little Paris of the East. French-inspired architecture, tree-lined avenues, grand public squares. For decades, the city reflected the sophistication of many Western European capitals. Yet only a short distance away rises another symbol that tells a very different story. The Palace of Parliament dominates the skyline with overwhelming scale. Weighing an estimated 4.1 million tons, it is considered the heaviest administrative building in the world. Constructing it required enormous sacrifice. Entire historic neighborhoods disappeared. Thousands of homes, churches, and streets were demolished to create enough space for the project. For many residents, the building represents both remarkable engineering and painful loss. The contrast is impossible to ignore. One side of Bucharest preserves graceful architecture inherited from another era. The other reflects the enormous ambitions and consequences of Romania's communist past. Walking through the city feels like moving between two different versions of history. Each one still visible. Each one impossible to erase. Romania's new chapter. Although Romania is deeply connected to its past, today's story is also about transformation. Over the past few decades, Bucharest has developed into one of Eastern Europe's fastest-growing technology hubs. The country has gained international recognition for having some of the fastest internet speeds in the world. That digital infrastructure has encouraged the growth of technology companies, startups, and a new generation of software engineers and innovators. Following the 1989 revolution, Romania entered a long period of rebuilding. Its economy changed. Its institutions evolved. Its relationship with Europe entered an entirely new chapter. Progress wasn't immediate. Challenges remained. But year after year, the country continued adapting to a rapidly changing world. Perhaps that's one of Romania's greatest strengths. Its ability to keep moving forward without completely letting go of its past. Ancient traditions still survive in mountain villages. Historic churches continue overlooking quiet valleys. At the same time, modern office towers rise across Bucharest. Technology companies expand. Young entrepreneurs build businesses connected to the entire world. Old and new exist together rather than replacing one another. A country defined by endurance. The more you travel across Romania, the more one idea keeps returning. This isn't simply a country of beautiful landscapes. Nor is it only a land of castles, forests, or famous legends. Every destination reveals another layer of resilience. The forests survived where much of Europe's wilderness disappeared. Ancient villages preserved traditions that many societies left behind. The Romanian language carried its Latin roots through nearly 2,000 years of political change. Communities rebuilt after wars, empires, revolutions, and countless turning points in history. Even places marked by tragedy, like Giamina, remind visitors that every landscape carries both beauty and loss. Romania isn't a place that hides its contradictions. It embraces them. Wild nature exists beside expanding cities. Ancient customs continue alongside cutting-edge technology. History remains present, not as something trapped inside museums, but as something people continue living every day. Perhaps that's why traveling through Romania feels different from simply visiting another destination. It's a journey through civilizations, through changing identities, and through stories that never truly disappeared. Every mountain pass, every medieval village, every forest, every river, every old church. Each one quietly adds another chapter to a nation shaped not only by survival, but by the determination to preserve what matters most. In the end, Romania offers far more than unforgettable scenery. It reminds us that true beauty isn't found only in famous landmarks. Sometimes it's found in endurance, in memory, in traditions that refuse to fade, and in people who continue moving forward while carrying the wisdom of the past with them. That is what makes Romania more than just another destination on the map. It is a place where history still breathes, nature still leads, and every journey leaves you understanding the country, and perhaps yourself, a little more deeply.